Hi guys, welcome back to Cupcakes and Protein Shakes. I am your host Savannah. We're doing another episode of Bikini Girl Chit Chat. So I have a fellow bikini girl. So introduce your name, tell us your age, and where are you from?
All right. Hello, my name is Faunai. I'm 30 years old and I'm from Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay, welcome to the show. So when was your last competition?
So the last time I competed was last year in June. I did the DC Pro Am, and I did a show 2 weeks before that in Pennsylvania as well.
So
So I
you've
did
done
like,
two last year?
yep, two last year, and then my first show was in 2021 in November.
Okay, so you've done three shows total.
Yep.
Okay, where are you at right now?
So right now, I'm in an improvement season. I'm hoping to start prep in May and then do two more shows, one in August, and then I'm aiming for North Americans in September. So I just want to do a warm-up show first and then jump into a national show.
Okay, exciting. So let's go back to the very beginning for you. So when did you either start or hear about this sport and what got you interested in competing?
Yeah, so I heard about this sport from a friend. She was in prep. She's a wellness competitor and she's also on my team. Um, and she was in prep. I was sort of like, this was like beginning of 2021. I had just, wanted to start a fitness journey of just getting healthier, getting into the gym, getting into a routine and things like that. So I joined a gym. I joined this I don't know if you're familiar with bodybuilding.com. They have this like body fit app that you can use to like join some sort of like challenge or shredding program. So I did one of those. It was like a 12-week thing. So I was meeting up with her in the morning. She told me she was competing, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like I've never really heard of that. And I was meeting up with her in the morning sometimes, and she was showing me like her exercises and things that she was doing. And then eventually she was like, hey, why don't you come train with me and my team on Saturday or Sunday? Because we're there every weekend. And I was like, oh, okay. Like first I was like, no, like I don't want to train with like bodybuilders. I'm like barely like know what I'm doing. Like I'm weak. Like, I didn't want to like, show up and just, you know, but yeah, I mean, eventually, I did show up one Saturday, and I met the coach, I met people on the team, I was training with them, and I just continued to go back to the training sessions on the weekends. I finished my 12-week program with bodybuilding.com. And then I just, naturally, people on the team, like they kept seeing me. They were like, oh, you're going to do a show? You're going to do a show? And I'm like, no, I kind of like, having my freedom of like eating whatever I wanted and like that kind of thing. Didn't want to give that up yet. But eventually, I went to her show, which she did. Her first show was the DC Prime in 2021. So I went and I watched that show. And then I was like, okay, I think this is something that I can do. This is something I want to try. So I went to the coach and I was like, hey, I want to do, I want to try to do a prep and try to, do a show. He was like, okay, yeah, like we'll get you started. So I started my first prep in July of 2021 and my show was November of 2021. So it was about like, I want to say like 20 weeks of a prep.
Yeah,
So yeah,
it's a long prep.
yeah, yeah,
It's
definitely.
rough. That's wrong. I mean, like, 12 weeks is pretty standard. 16 weeks is generally what most people do, but anything past 16, that's like, it's a long time to be dieting.
Yeah, and there was a lot going on during that time too. Like there were two weddings that I was in, one of which was of the girl who actually got me into competing. So there was bachelorette party and wedding. I got COVID during that prep. It was just, so much. But, I'm glad I made that decision. It really, sort of changed my life. And, I learned a lot about myself during that process.
So that was your first prep in 2021 and then got on stage November.
Yes.
Okay. And then how did you end up placing at your first competition?
I placed second. I did true novice, novice, and open, and I got second in each category. So I didn't do like terrible, but like there was definitely when I got there, I definitely saw like where I already knew where I needed to improve before I even like got on stage. I was like, okay, I
Yeah.
probably shouldn't have, I wasn't like perfect with prep, of course. My first time, I just didn't really realize how like super serious and stuff it was. And, I definitely could have done some things differently. But yeah, that's when I knew. I was like, okay, now like it kind of lit a fire in me that one time, and I was like, okay, I have to come back better next year, or like whenever I, do another show. So that's what I decided to do.
So did you get nationally qualified at your show too? Because the second place is that, yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so that was first time experience. Was it a good show day? Was it a stressful show day?
Oh no, it was great. It was really fun. I competed alongside one of my teammates. She was in masters though, but it was both of our first show. There was, a few other people on my team. It was their first show as well. So it was really nice to have people there, with me during this process and going through it with me as well. And my mom was there. She was helping me with like my hair and all that stuff. So it was a really good, it was a good experience for me. The show was well ran too. So like started at like 8. I think I was out of there by 2. It was one of those shows where it's armed forces and like non-armed forces. So I think the battle royale people went first, which is the non-armed forces division. So they got us out of the way, and then it was everyone else after. So it was ran really well.
Okay. And this was at the very end of the year. Okay. Where you said, are you armed forces or no?
Oh no, I'm not. But the
Okay.
show is like combined with armed forces and then like regular people.
Okay. Were you working at this time or like what were you doing?
Yeah, I work full time. I have 2 jobs actually. I was working for a healthcare IT company, and then I also teach ballet on the sides. Like that's my second job. So I had 2 jobs, and that was a lot because I was working from home luckily at that point, but then I would have to go into the studio like at night to teach my dance classes. um, and yeah, sometimes I would have classes that ended at like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and then I would have to do cardio after. So it was a lot to kind of handle. But luckily I was working from home. Now my second prep was like I got a new job like halfway through, and that job required me to be in person, and it was like a 45-minute commute from home, and it was awful. um, so yeah, it was definitely more manageable the first time than the second time around.
Yeah, man, that commute sucks. Like when you have to commute and you're just forced to sit and do nothing for like 45 minutes or however long it is, it's miserable because there's like you can't speed it up. It's like I can try to drive faster, but it's like I literally just can't speed up. It's you
Yeah.
gotta just sit through it. And when you're tired and hungry driving, oh my gosh, like that drive home, you're just like, I just want to be in my bed. I just want to not have to do cardio or, get home and get done with the day. It's tough balancing a full-time schedule and prep because prep is essentially another part-time job. So it's like working 3 jobs at that point because you have your full-time and another part-time and another part-time. It's like, when do you fit everything in together?
Right.
Questions for you about how you did it. Um, how did you do it? Like, what did you do to save time? How did you get your cardio in? How did you stay on plan? Like, how did you organize your meals?
Yeah, it's crazy. I actually so when I first started this job, it was in April of last year, and I was waking up. So I had at that point, I was like 4 weeks out from the first show, I think, or 4 or 5 weeks out or something like that. So the cardio was very high. So I had an hour in the morning, hour at night, 20 minutes after training as well. So at one point, I was waking up at like 2 a.m., going to the gym, getting cardio done, getting my training done, getting the post training cardio done, then driving home, shower, and then get ready to leave my house by 7 o'clock to get to work by 8. So that was really stressful. And then like on the days that I teach, I would leave work at 4:30, get to the studio 5:30, teach until 9, go to the gym until, do an hour of cardio, be finished around 10:15, eat, go home and get ready to wake up at 2 a.m. again. So it was very difficult to do that. And I was starting to get like burned out like the first week of that. So eventually I ended up finding a gym that was closer to my job. Like, yes, I had, it was more expensive. So now I had like 3 gym memberships. Um, a gym that was closer to my job. It was literally across the street. So then I could wake up at like 4 o'clock and then drive, 45 minutes to the gym, train there, shower, and then just go right across the street to work. So that was one way that I had to make it work, was just biting the bullet, buying another, gym membership, even though it was expensive, to add on to that what I already had. And then everything after work, there wasn't really anything I could do about it. I always took my meals with me. I had one of those big like insulated lunch bags that keeps everything there. But yeah, it was hard, especially I worked in healthcare, so I worked in like a doctor's office, and we would always get food, like lunches every day catered, snacks, treats, everything. Like the best thing about it is we had like unlimited coffee, so that was great. But having all those snacks all over the place was just, it was definitely tempting. But I stuck to it. I would eat lunch in my car so I wouldn't have to go in the break room. Um, so yeah, I mean, I just kind of had to make those tiny little, arrangements so that I could not be like waking up at 2 a.m. every day and, burning myself out.
Yeah, I mean, that sleep is really critical. Like, that's not like 4 hours of sleep is nothing. And I mean, you're probably at that point, like, you gotta have to settle down, and then your mind races because you're like, okay, I have to wake up at 2, I have to get it, and it just keeps going and going. And when you're prepping, and the closer you get, and now you're hungry and it's late, you just don't have time to recover because you're not sleeping and then waking up. And so
Right.
you can do some hard things and prep, whatever it takes. And it's crazy and thinking like, how did I do that? But the gym membership, like, just make it easy. Like, yeah, it does suck. It's expensive, but it's nice to get an extra couple hours of sleep. It's 100% worth it
Yeah.
to make just, give yourself extra time. Corporate life is hard.
Yes.
No, no one is healthy in corporate world. There's
Right.
very few people. They just bring you so like donuts, and they think they're being nice, which it is. It is a luxury if they bring food and let's cater lunch. But they're not catering meal prep. They're not catering chicken, rice, broccoli. It is the cheapest, easy, greasiest, whatever is closest, whatever can cater a lot of people at once. So the Chick-fil-A's, and even if you get a salad catered, high carbs, high fat. The dressing is full sugars. It's all the little like raisins and nuts and stuff, like, so it technically is like a healthy, but if you're really tracking and trying to prep for a show, like, there's just no room for anything honestly besides the basics.
Right. And it's so funny because like working in healthcare, a bunch of doctors, a bunch of nurses, like they should know that like these things are not healthy and try to like opt for better choices. So like the lunches would come from like pharmaceutical reps and things like that. So I think at like one point, it was after my prep, people were kind of getting tired of like Chick-fil-A and stuff. So they would ask like, hey, can you bring something a little bit healthier? Can you bring like sandwiches instead of like fried chicken and like things like that? So they started to do that. But I was like, I mean, still there were some days where it would just be, I'd walk in the break room and just be like cupcakes everywhere. And,
Yes.
okay. And
Oh
it's
gosh,
like
I
8
hate
a.m.
that.
cupcakes.
Yes. It's like every time you go into the office, it's some type of massive cake, massive. It's always someone's birthday. It's always someone's kid's birthday, or it's leftovers, Halloween candy. Okay, my kids don't want it, so let me just bring it to my coworkers, or it just never ends. Because if it's not one holiday, it's a birthday, it's a retirement, it's celebration, it's cookies, and it is nice. And it's not that it isn't nice, it's just when you're a competitor, it is really hard because that temptation is just right at your fingertips. And it's just every day, just
Yeah.
constant. You're just like, again. So when you work from home, it's a lot nicer just to step away from it. But when you do go into the office, man, you got to have some strong willpower to say no to that free food.
Yeah, yeah, just completely avoid it altogether. Just don't even go in there. Like there's
Yes,
nothing there
don't
for you.
go into the break room. Don't
Yeah.
go into the break room. It's better just to, yeah, eat wherever there's not temptation like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so between first show and second show, November 2021, and then when was the next show, 2022?
It was in May.
Okay, so there's a little bit of time. So what happened after the show? Did you reverse? Did you stay in a prep? What was your plan?
So I did reverse. I actually reversed pretty well, I would say, especially compared to like this one that I'm in right now, because that's crazy. But I actually did pretty well. My show was the week before Thanksgiving, so I immediately got, my meal plan. We follow a meal plan from my coach. So I got my meal plan. I started eating that. And then it was like Thanksgiving, of course, I didn't follow it. I did eat Thanksgiving dinner and all that stuff. And then I just stuck with it, and it, I'm like proud of myself for it because I've heard like when I was in prep and I was listening to a lot of, podcasts and things like that, I just hear about like how awful and like how not awful but like how difficult reversing is, and I was like, okay, I don't want to like make these mistakes. I want to like do it right. Of course I went off a little bit some areas, but for the most part I kept everything the way that it was supposed to be. And it really paid off in the end, I think, because I had a pretty successful prep coming up again, because I started prep in February of 2022, so I had like about 2 months off actually. So it wasn't a lot of time for me to like put on a bunch of muscle, but it was a good time for me to like recover myself and then just like think about what I wanted to do next, and have get a mindset to prepare for the next prep. But yeah, I think I did reverse, and I stayed in the gym. I didn't just like quit or anything like that, and I'm really happy that I did that.
Yeah, reversing is hard, I think, for everyone, just because the date of the show passed. And
Yeah.
it's not that, nothing really changes. Like you're still training, you're still doing all this stuff. It's just now that you know that you don't have to be on stage soon. So you kind of let your guard down and you have those little bites and things, and it just doesn't feel as efficient, because when you say no, 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 you're just on your plan. But then when you're kind of in reversing, it's like, oh, well, floodgates are kind of open. We can have all these things, but do we choose yes? Do we choose no? But that's great that you didn't have to experience a crappy reverse like most of us do. It's good to get educated and know what to expect before you prep, because prep isn't just okay, get lean and I stay lean forever. It's like, no, we do have to put on body fat a little bit. So you said that reverse was better than your reverse now. Why is now bad, or why is now not as good?
Yeah, so this reverse was challenging. Like I don't know why, but I just went into like I kind of like went into like a depression a little bit like after my show. Not because like I had missed competing or anything like that. Like I really don't even know why. Like I went in with like myself, okay, I'm gonna, eat healthier, like I'm gonna or not eat healthier, I'm gonna follow my meal plan, I'm gonna do all these things. And then it was a mixture of stress at work, the things that were available at work that we just talked about, all those treats and things like that. And just like the fact that I knew I wasn't going to be on stage until 2023, maybe even 2024, I was thinking. So it was just all those things combined. And then I don't know, I also just got depressed because of that. I was picking up the weight quickly. And I knew why I was picking up the weight, because I was like eating whatever the hell I wanted and like not really paying attention to what I was doing. Um, and so at one point, I was just like, I felt like I didn't even it's crazy. I felt like I didn't even like deserve to like go to the gym. Like you just did a show. You just put your body through all this stuff. You just showed like the most incredible discipline ever. And now like you can't even stick to this. Like you don't deserve to go. That's how I was like talking to myself. And it was very negative. And I was doing this negative self-talk for such a long time. And it was just hard to get out of that cycle. There was a time where like I didn't even go to the gym for like a couple weeks at a time, just because I was like, I don't belong here. Like I'm not a bodybuilder. Like I'm not this. Like I don't deserve it. So I don't know. It was crazy. It was definitely an experience, and there was I don't really know what happened inside of me to like get out of that, but I had been going on like this probably July, August, maybe September, like early October is when I kind of was like, you know what, like go to the gym, like stick to the gym for like 4 days a week. That's it. And then go to 5 days a week. And then, I wasn't showing up to, train with my coach, like hadn't seen him in a while, that kind of thing. And I felt really bad about that. I was like kind of embarrassed, like to go to the gym and like even see my coach because I was like, I gained weight. Like I didn't want to see my teammates. Like I didn't want them to see me like this. And I know that like they don't, I mean, they care, but like I know that they weren't going to be like judging me for anything. But that's just like how I thought. I was like hiding, and eventually I pulled myself out of it somehow and, just started going back to the gym, started, eating my meals that I was supposed to be eating, doing the cardio that I was supposed to be doing, and just like gently like pulling myself out of like whatever depression that I was in and just, sticking with, my plan and my goals and things like that. So now I've cleaned up my diet quite a bit. I do have like on the weekends, I'll, go out to dinner or like lunch or brunch or something like that. But for the most part, like I've cleaned everything up. I'm in the gym, like I'm training hard, I'm doing my cardio that I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm just trying to prepare myself for May when I start prep again, or hopefully start prep again. So yeah, it was wild. It was a wild experience. Like I don't, yeah.
Tell me how your third show placing went.
So the third show, I got third, actually. Yeah. So the show that I did in May, I got second. I did novice, and got fifth in novice, and then I got second in open, and then at the DC Pro, I got third in open.
Okay, how did you feel about that?
Um, I was okay with it. I kind of like I knew that I improved since the last show that I did. Like that was my main goal. I wasn't trying to like get first place. I mean, it would have been nice, but I just wanted to prove to myself that I could execute my prep perfectly and then, see what I look like on stage and see the improvements that I make. Because, like I said, the first prep, I did go off plan more than I was supposed or more than I should have, more at all. I shouldn't have done it at all. But I wanted to execute it perfectly and, just make the improvements, see the improvements on stage, which I did. So I'm really happy, with how I did, at those two shows.
When you say off plan, do you mean diet or cardio or training?
Diet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no issue with training and cardio at all. Like I will do that stuff like by any means necessary. But I have such a bad sweet tooth. Um,
Yeah.
love
Same. Same. I love food. I love eating. I love sweets. And I thought when I started this journey, I was like, it's gonna be easier, right? Like the more that you say no, you're gonna just like maybe I'll turn into one of those people that like doesn't crave sweets. If you ask someone like, what's your favorite dessert? They're like, oh, I don't even like sweets. And you just look at them, you're like, what the no one asked you that. I was like, maybe I'll turn into one of those people finally, since I've been doing this for a long time, and that still has never ever happened. Even though I diet from time to time, it doesn't mean that I don't like food. It means I really, really like it, but I try to not like it during like 16 weeks of the year, but it doesn't mean it's easy. It is the hardest part for everybody. It's the diet. It's not being able to control your sweet tooth because it's the stress, man. Like stress is I don't know, but like food is the hardest part. It's why it's so hard for this sport. I feel like because like other sports, no one tracks their diet like us. No one is disciplined as a bodybuilding competition or competitor. Like if you're a professional basketball, anything, basketball, football, whatever professional sport, they don't even like they don't even track their calories like that. They don't even have to. Like I've they can go get burgers or drinks and stuff like that and the night before the game or whatever and like win championship games having had fries and burgers and whatever. Like it doesn't matter. But for a physique competitor, every single freaking thing that you eat is tracked and calculated and it does matter because it's all those calories add up to pounds and it's very interesting because I think it's a mindset game and it's just very hard. It's some people have an easier time than others, but then there's some of us that really like sweets and it does get easier with time, but it's still a challenge.
Yeah,
Okay, so that was 3 shows in. First show, and second show and third show. Okay, what has your like feedback been, or have you gotten any feedback along the way?
Well, it's funny you ask because I always like submit my information for feedback and I never get a response. So I've never gotten responses from like the judges for that. But I talked to my coach, of course, and I know from like the DC Pro Am show that I did, I just needed like way more muscle. Like there's a picture, I think I have a picture of like me and like the two other girls like that placed first and second. And it was just like I was just like small. Like there was no, I mean, there was muscle there, but it like wasn't enough compared to them. So I knew, and my coach knew, he was like, when I came off stage, he was like, you need to put on like some muscle, like more muscle next time. So he said about like 5-7 pounds of muscle. And I was like, how the hell am I supposed to do that? But yeah, it's
That's
a
a
lot.
lot of muscle. That's like 3 years. Like that's what I'm like doing the math. I'm like, that's like 2 or 3 years of muscle.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I've been working on, just putting on muscle everywhere. Like before I was not training like back too much. I was doing like maybe 2 or 3 back exercises a week. Now I have a full day of back. I have chest now that I'm doing calves. Like I never do calves. Like so I'm training every single thing now and like having a full day dedicated to each group, which
Yeah.
is totally different than before.
I mean, bikini standards are, you're a bikini, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, bikini athletes standards of now you are muscular everywhere.
Mhm.
You have calves and quads now, and hamstrings and tie-ins and glutes and back and rear delts and biceps and triceps. It's just muscle on top of your frame. Balance from top to bottom, yes.
Mhm.
Not as, I mean, you have a little chest, but I mean, a little bit of I guess a lot of abs now, but there's just a lot of muscle. It's a lot of muscle now. So yeah, you pretty much do need to train like crazy, like a legit bodybuilding style. Because back in the day, bikini, light shoulder pump, a little bit of hamstring, a little bit of glutes, good to go. Now it's like total body, everything, hit everything.
Yeah, and another thing is ab control too. Like that is something that I was not aware of, like just controlling your abs, and like trying to like pull everything in as you're like walking and as you're standing and posing. I was just like, I actually have to really think about this now too. And I come from a background of doing ballet and we're always trying to like sit up straight and like, pull our tummies in and all this other stuff. And the fact that I wasn't even like registering that, like my first show, I was like, okay, I definitely saw a difference between like me focusing on like controlling, my core, in between the first show and the second and third. So yeah, that's another thing that I feel like is overlooked, especially like your first time competing.
Yes. Yeah. That lower abdominal control. Because if you belly breathe, it's like a balloon and you just see the stomach go
Yeah.
like this. Or if you just like don't hold in your core, you're like, even though you're lean and you're like shredded, you still have like a belly. It's not a
Mhm.
real belly. It's just your stomach is just not like in. It's just relaxed. Every girl has a little bit of a pooch, even if you're shredded. Like if you stick out your stomach, like ugh, you can like push your organs out into it. Even if you have abs, it can look distended. So you just have to suck them in, hold them
Yeah.
tight, don't breathe up here. And it's hard. And it is, if you don't practice it, it's not going to translate on stage. And you don't know until you know. So you have to kind of, unfortunately, make the mistake on stage to realize, oh shit, I didn't do that. Probably should do that next time. It's,
Mhm.
but then once you notice it on stage, you didn't even have to get feedback from the judges to notice it, that you're good enough to like be able to look at your stage photos and be like, oh, okay, something's off. Um, Curious about ballet though. How did that translate to bikini posing?
Oh my gosh, it helped so much with that.
Yeah.
Just because I already know I'm pretty much like I'm very aware of like my body because of all the ballet that I've done and just like how to make it like look better in different positions. So that was one thing that helped a lot. Also, just like having, flowing movements rather than like very sharp, like arm gestures when you're like transitioning from pose to pose. So having that background was huge. Like, I don't think, I think posing would have been so much harder for me had I not been a ballet dancer for like over 20 years, like it's just, yeah, it made a huge difference. It makes it a lot easier, and I was able to kind of like, that's how I kind of learned. I learned posing just by like watching other people, and also like people on my team would help me out. There's another girl on my team who does bikini, and she would like help me through the posing and things like that. And my coach was helping as well. But I was also watching a lot of videos, and just kind of like figuring out what looks best on me. And then, I also, went to another posing coach as well, just to help me tweak things. But yeah, that really helped, with posing for sure.
Yeah, a lot of dancers do really well just because posing is like a dance. There's
Mhm.
steps, there's certain things that you like hit and hold, but the transitions, sometimes you can't teach that, or
Yeah.
you just have to practice it really, really hard. But like so girls that don't have any type of dance training or um just that natural flow. Some people can pick it up really quick, but other people really have to work on it just because their body is like, it just doesn't understand how to move. And you can definitely teach yourself how to pose. I think that's how I started posing is just watching videos and then trial and error. Just looking at a video, watching a pro, watching the Olympians, and be like, okay, let me just like see if my body can twist in that position and then get a couple of help from friends or people that have done it before. There's a lot that you can self-teach yourself, and there's so much content and videos out there and how to poses that you can definitely learn a lot on your own very, very fast.
Yeah.
Okay, so with competing, now that you are in the off season, what is your favorite part about off season and what was favorite part about prep?
Um, Off season, my favorite part is just being able to have, balance, a little bit more balance. You eat your meals and stuff that you're supposed to. You can lift heavier. But you can also have, times where you go out with friends and like have food and things like that. And so that's the dieting aspect that I like about off season. And then, just training, lifting heavier, not having to do as much cardio. But yeah, just seeing like those changes in yourself, like as you go through improvement season, like, oh, my glutes are growing, oh, my shoulders are growing, like all that stuff, just knowing that the work that you're doing is like paying off. And you see that in prep too, for sure. But it's like, I don't know, I like seeing myself grow. But I also like seeing myself, in prep, like, get leaner and leaner. So I guess about prep, my favorite thing is just the fact that like knowing that anything that is thrown at you, that you can get through it. Like the hardest days, like there would be days when I wake up, I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to do it? I don't know, but I'm going to get through it somehow. Like I just know that I'm going to get through it. And just having that like mindset every single day is the best part about, going through prep. Because you do have those hard days and you're just like, oh my God, like I hope like, I hope I get through this, and you're going to get through it, and just having that strength and that mindset. That's what I like most about prep.
Yeah, so if you've never experienced a prep and thinking about doing it, you learn a lot about yourself because you can't have excuse like you just learn that okay, these are excuses I would have made, but now that I have a show, I have to just get over it. You have to have a lot of tough conversations and get yourself just to get out of bed because there's days when you're going to be sick and tired and the weather sucks and it's cold and you woke up late or traffic, like little inconveniences, but like literally no matter what happens during the day or during that prep, you know that you have to get your cardio done and you have to stick to your diet because you're going to be on stage. And then kind of like once you get to stage, it all makes sense. All that like suffering is worth it, in my opinion. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it again. Like after the first time, if it wasn't worth it, I don't think you would do it again. But then you're like, oh wow, like I really accomplished a lot. And I think it helps you with everything. Like you just start learning how to be disciplined in other areas of your life as well.
Mhm. Yeah, and all of that definitely like you just said, it translates into other areas of your life, your job, your friendships, your relationships, all that stuff. Just knowing that, you can get, these tiny little things, like you can get through them, like stuff at work. If you have an issue with a coworker or like some project that you're doing, and it's like, there's deadlines and setbacks and things like that, like just knowing that, I have to sit down, I have to do this, I have to get it done, like, or else, I lose my job or whatever. Um, that, all that stuff from prep just translates into life too.
Yeah, I do like prep because of that. What about other just general advice for someone that's wanting to get into competing? What would you tell someone that's thinking about doing a show?
I would tell them to watch a show, like go and see one. Like, I think that helped me like tremendously. I think that if, just like, I don't know, it's just going and seeing like how the show is run, like what's expected of you that day. If you know someone already who's in it, also just like talking to them about their experiences too, because I know when my friend was, doing prep, like, yeah, I asked her about things, but I didn't ask her the questions that I probably should have asked her, like about, diet and stuff, being tired, all this other stuff, like how to handle like work, life, prep, all that stuff. So if you are a person who's thinking about competing and you have someone like, oh, hey, like reach out to them, say, hey, like ask the hard questions about like the real realities of the prep, not just about, show day hair and makeup and stuff. Like that stuff is important too, but like you have to get there first. And like if you don't have any advice on how to get to that day, like I think it'll be really helpful to have that, that information beforehand. And also just seeing the show as well.
Yeah. That's what I did before I started competing. It was kind of like I knew about competing. I heard about it, started researching it, kind of talked to some people. I started DMing people. I started DMing like at the time I didn't know how big names they were. I just went straight to the top. So I went to like Olympians and pros at the time. Like I didn't know it was a big deal to reach out to them. I literally just inboxed them and was like, "Hi, I'm a new competitor. It looks like you've competed a lot. Can you give me some advice?" Some of them responded, some of them didn't. Honestly, looking back, like I literally I messaged like Angelica and Ashley and like these like huge people that I was like, I didn't know what I was doing at the time. And I didn't know. I was like, oh, I just see them on stage there. They must know what they're doing. I messaged all sorts of random competitors and was like, advice, advice, advice. And then I decided, me and my trainer, I was like, do you know any competitions? I went to a show that was close to me so I could see it. And the second that I saw that show, I was like, great, like it affirmed the research and everything that had interested me to it. And I saw those sparkly bikinis and I saw everyone had like their makeup done and their hair and they just like looked so strong. I was like, I want to look like that. I want to get on stage. I want to do that. And then it started that process of like, okay, I get it. I understand it. It makes sense. But just like you said, a lot of times only part that attracts people is the show day because that's the flashy part. That's the wow, that's the ooh, that's the end goal. But they don't get to see the 20 weeks of suffering, which it is, and hard days and what it's like to actually diet and the feelings of constant hunger for 4 months straight, for tired when your feet and body ache, but you still have to go work out even though you're sore. Even like that is what you should be asking people. And we shouldn't be scaring people right now, but we do want to make it just like a reality that it isn't easy and it shouldn't be easy. Otherwise everyone would do it. But that's just kind of do your research, find someone that you can actually ask these different questions and don't be afraid to ask. Like if you're curious, like we want to help other competitors.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? Okay, so anything I haven't asked you that you wish I would have asked you, or any parts about your journey that we've left out?
No, I think we've covered it all.
Okay, so what is next for you? What are you working towards, and what are your goals, long term, short term, in the sport?
So my next goal, I just want to compete at a national show and see where I end up. Um, I don't have like any like super long-term goals. I think I just want to see, how competitive I can be, like, at national shows first, and then, see how far I can go, if I can turn pro or not, or whatever. I would love to, turn pro, but like it's not like the next step for me, I don't think. I do feel like I need to, some more time before I do that. And the cool thing about this sport is that the age like doesn't matter. Like I did my first show when I was 29. I'm 30 now. I still like have some time. It's not like when I was a ballet dancer. Like most dancers are retired by the time they're like in their like 30 for the most part, just because of how much of a beating your body takes for so many years. But that's what I like about this sport, is that I can continue on, as I get older, and there's no like time limit on anything. So that's where
Yeah.
I'm at.
I like that too. Yeah, because like it's the only sport that you get almost better with age. Like you put on more muscle, you get more mature, your muscle gets more mature. So it's kind of odd because like most professional sports, they peak you mid 20s, early 30s ish, but bodybuilding is very different because like you can turn pro at any age from 21 to 75, I don't know, 80, maybe at that point, but like there isn't a rush, and you still have plenty of time to compete competitively for like a long time. And the stage will always be there, right? So anytime that you're either wanting to take time off or jump into a show, it'll always be waiting for you. Okay, last question is, I didn't want to forget this one. Are you team cupcake? Or are you team protein shake?
Definitely cupcake. I'm not even gonna lie. I love a good cupcake. Not a huge fan of like a ton of icing on the cupcake, but definitely gonna choose that cupcake for sure.
That's what I like to hear. When people choose protein shake, I'm like, no, no. I was like, no, just
Yeah.
be team cupcake, because I'm like, those are the real ones. And okay, so you don't like a lot of icing, but if what is your perfect cupcake?
Red velvet with the cream cheese icing is so good. That like bit of tangy cream cheese with the sweet like red velvet cupcake. It's so good.
Yes. Do
Perfect.
you also watch baking shows during prep? Because I watch all of those little cupcake baking cooking shows.
Yeah, I love like on Instagram those bakers who make those hyper realistic cakes, and they look like, a box of tissues, but it's really a cake. I love those. Those are amazing. I can watch those all day.
Yes, and they do like a time lapse something where they like cut it and you're like, oh, is it cake or not? You're like, oh, I don't
Yeah,
know. It's
like on
so
the edge of your seat, like, oh, is it? Yeah.
I know. Oh, okay. Yeah, we probably shouldn't look at those, but they're fun. Like it is really fun that we like torture ourselves with these like treats that we know we shouldn't be watching, but I love looking at the baking stuff.
Yeah, me too. All
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. I'll get your episode posted. It probably won't be until April, but I will get it on probably the first week of April.
right, sounds good.
Okay.